When we look at greenhouse gases, traditionally we have known that CO2 is the primary thing that we need to worry about. But rest of the other greenhouse gases also has been discussed, and many times they have been converted into CO2 equivalent. In terms of discussion, it looks simple that it is CO2 equivalent is the right thing to do, but many of these GHG gases have a different lifetime. So if at all we are looking at how do we address them in a shorter time frame, in a medium time frame, and the longer time frame of, when we say shorter meaning 10, 15 years, 30, 40 years, and then 100 years, we have to start thinking differently. And that's why India as a country also has to have different approaches. And there's no one single formula where we could say this is the way to do it, this is not the way to do it. So when we look at some of the numbers which keeps coming, and of course some numbers which come from India is slightly different from what comes from elsewhere. But when we look at some of these things which are being looked at sector by sector, as Honorable Minister also made that point, about 35% of them are coming from fossil fuels, 20% from waste, 40% from agriculture, in a different scenario. We will not get into details of it, we will come later because it's a curtain raiser, we will look at broader picture. Now what we are actually trying to look at is some of these numbers can be debated internally. These numbers are being said at various places, but what is important here is that in each of these sectors, we can have technological intervention where it can be reduced. And to take a very simple example of energy security, where we use our cow dung or gobar that we call it. Worldwide, gobar has been a place where people always calculate methane emissions. And if you use the same formula for India, we will be getting a number which can be anywhere. But we know that the cow dung is also being used as energy related things, and those set of material which moves out, or I would say quantity which moves out, is not probably responsible for the methane emission, right? So some of these things are something which we need to discuss and debate as we go ahead. What I wanted to share with you all is that when we look at technological intervention, startups, and I'm very happy to note here that India has actually started becoming the big hub of startups, where they are coming out with newer ideas and newer ways of tackling the same problem. And for us to tackle climate change, and I don't mean global related issue, I am just putting my boundary just for India, that what is that we can do for us, so that while doing it, we are able to make a difference in terms of economic activity. People should get more jobs, and also people should be able to get that so-called energy security and the food security that is required. So there are many such examples that we have started seeing it in other countries as well as in India, where we have seen one case where people have developed multi-action fuel additives that reduces greenhouse gas emission from transport sector. So even if it reduces 5%, 10%, and looking at the number which Gadkari ji talked about, that 5% reduction also could be a significant number that we are talking about. So that's something which has been recently one startup has come out with. There is another one which is talking about direct carbon dioxide capture through a heated filter. Carbon dioxide capture has always been a low temperature processes. By high temperature process is something which research is still being done, but all those who can do it at higher temperature, they can actually be doing a big service to the whole global community. There are a lot of people who are also talking about how do we use artificial intelligence to create game-changing technology to help solve problem relating to wasted food. And India, when you look at waste, which we put it to our landfills, 50 to 60% of them are actually food waste. So if you reduce even part of it, 5 to 7% of food waste, almost the estimated number comes to about 8% CO2 reduction can take place. And a country like ours, food waste is simply not acceptable traditionally as well as technologically. Similarly, we also have examples which are coming out in concrete technology where CO2 is being used for curing concrete. Earlier, we have been always using water, and institutions like ACRC and CBRI has been working in that area. There are also some startup companies which have started coming in. We also have some very good examples of methane capture from the landfill, as well as doing biogas from the waste. And all of that, these technologies have started percolating in India. Scale is an issue, and therefore when we talk about scale, is where science and technology and innovators, all of them have to come together and see that it is happening not only in one place as pilot, but it happens as real projects across India, and that is what will make difference.